I'm really happy to be here. It's my first time with Abraham and you and everyone here, and it's great. I've been listening to the tapes for about 1.5 years in my car every day, and I'm considering becoming a glutton. I love seeing you had a glutton program because one tape a week is great, but I find myself listening to them over and over to remind myself on a daily basis. And I've been having a really good time with it. And so many things are so genuinely good in my life that I feel I spend so much of my time feeling really good, and it's been great. I have been doing the rampage of appreciation a lot. I did that for about 2.5 months straight every morning, either writing it or saying it on my way to work. And it's so spontaneous a lot of times because I deeply do have so much I'm grateful for in my life. I was amazed, though, in doing the exercise, how much more happy I became as I did it. And that part's been fun. I have a home I love. I have a dog I'm happy with. I have friends I love. So I just feel really blessed.
Do you know that there is no ending to things? There is no ending to the list of things that will stream into your life because of your rampage of appreciation. In other words, once you are able to reach the place where you can appreciate genuinely and easily, the expansion of things to appreciate is, by Earth standards, nearly astronomical. Once you're able to maintain that, the universe will just knock itself out, giving you nearly something spectacular to appreciate in every moment of your life experience. You just find yourself looking from here to here to here to here to here to here to here, and then you wonder what anybody anywhere on the planet is worrying about, because your world is so good, because your world is so good.
I have a sense of that, and it's really been wonderful having that sense. And I've had it before in my life, but I love the exercises, and that's been a really great one.
Good.
And I can see my lover relationships improving as well. And my partner, we've had many wonderful, fun experiences together, doing so many great things, and we haven't met yet, but it's been so fun doing that exercise as well. And I realize that my life feels so good in so many ways that I really don't feel any sense of pressure, because I really am pleased with it right now. So that's been fun.
Well, we have to say to you, we love your words, and it is the ideal state of being. Satisfied with where I am and eager for more. It could not be a better state and more expectant state of good things to come. It's what really living on the brink is. Living on the brink, and then the next brink, and the next brink, and the next brink, and the next brink really is ideal. So what brings you here to us today?
Well, I have a couple things. I'll start with one question today, and it relates to croaking, as you like to say, and I like that. For me to really feel something as real, I need to have what I would call a bodily sense experience of it. It needs to be more than intellectual for me. And in listening to the tapes and other things I've heard about the death experience and consciousness, and I believe we are energy beings, and there's this level of awareness and consciousness I feel in my physical body. And I'm wondering, and I've heard you talk to people on the tapes about when we croak, we still have this consciousness. It's very aware of perhaps our loved ones or that kind of thing. And what I'm wondering about is if we no longer have our personality, is my understanding or sense.
Oh no,
and
you
that
have your
makes sense to me.
You have your personality. You will not feel detached from yourself. You will just leave the part of your personality that is negative and worried behind. But you will not have any sense of not knowing who you are or where you are in the continuum of your life.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And I'm wondering, I heard it expressed this way once, that the veil that separates us from, I know we're multidimensional beings, and perhaps that's part of this whole thing I'm talking about, but that there's, for example, when an infant's in the womb, there's just this thin veil of the mother's skin that separates it from all this, and yet this is here. It's just that infant isn't in that experience, but it's that close to it. And perhaps that relates to our experience when we croak, that there's
Well, we
this
can see
whole-
why someone would offer an analogy like that. You can be in a room and be distracted. You could be in a room watching television and not notice what's going on in the room. You could be in a room and asleep, and there would be no veil at all or no separation at all, and yet your point of consciousness would be someplace else. So rather than talking about being in a womb or about there being a veil, we think that it is cleaner and more to the point to just say you have the ability to be focused in a variety of different ways. In other words, when you are having this conversation with us, you are here focused upon what you're going to say and upon what we are saying to you. You could be in this same room and having a very different experience than the one who is actually sitting in the hot seat. In other words, there are a variety of experiences happening in exactly the same time and space because the point of consciousness are varied. You can have two people having an eyewitness account of the same event and tell two completely different stories because more to the point of what they think they saw is who they were as they perceived it rather than what actually happened. And so it's all about vibration. It's all about points of consciousness. It's all about perception. So when you have what you would call your death experience, you will withdraw your attention from the way you focus here, and you will view this and the death experience all from that broader point of view. We would encourage you, we like the words that you began with, as you say, for me, I want to have a real experience. In order for it to be meaningful, I need to have a fuller experience with it, even beyond the words that I'm hearing. And so we would encourage you to acknowledge that during times of meditation, when you feel that feeling of detachment, that's sort of what the death experience is going to feel like for you. If you've ever laid in your bed and had some sort of physical discomfort in your body, and you've just breathed it away, you've breathed yourself into a place of detachment from the discomfort, from the headache, from the toe ache, from the knee ache, from whatever ache that you have, and then you've felt that well-being just sort of wash through you. Now you understand viscerally what the death experience feels like. It's a withdrawal, it's a raising up from, it's a leaving behind anything, whether it is emotional or physical, that could be labeled in any way uncomfortable. In other words, the death experience is a literal leaving behind of resistance and a literal embracing of the allowing of the full essence of who you are. It's almost an immediate or instantaneous connection or acknowledgement with infinite intelligence. And so the feeling of well-being that flows through you and around you is palpable. Jerry and Esther heard a very brief encounter of a woman who was a model who was swept away with her lover in the waters of the tsunami. And she talked about how badly beaten up her body was. Her bones were broken. Her pelvis was broken, and she was in great, great pain. And she was in the very dark water with all of the debris moving around with her and sort of beating her up. And she could not remain above the water anymore, and she just sort of found herself swirling around under the water, and she could not get any more air, and she resigned herself to the acknowledgement that it was over for her. She could not see a way out of it. And she literally, in her own mind, acknowledged her complete surrender. She said, I'm giving up. I'm just giving into it. And in that moment, as she relaxed, clarity began coming over her, and all of her physical pain subsided in that moment. And as she swirled around in the water, instead of it being uncomfortable, it was actually pleasurable to her. And she did not know it. She did not know that she was drowning or that she was not drowning. She was enjoying the pleasurable moment of the subsiding of all discomfort. And in the midst of all of that, what was actually happening was she was surfacing, and her head came out of the water, and she saw the bright blue sky and said it was the most beautiful thing that she'd ever seen. And she'd had a sort of personal, which is what you're talking about, personal awakening. In other words, she had the death experience without having the death experience. She had the releasing of resistance. And what we're wanting all of you to realize is that you don't have to get yourself into a place where you have no other choice before you give up your resistance. resistance. You can give up your resistance at any time that you choose once you've worked yourself up the emotional scale. In other words, a quantum leap like that, we say, I'm at 40,000 feet, I have no parachute, I'm plummeting to the earth, what should I do? And we say, hang on, it will be over soon. But we're wanting you to realize that at any time you can release resistance and have the experience of that death experience. And we want to say that there is no such thing as a true death experience. It's just a fuller life experience. In other words, that gate that membrane, that veil between what you call non-physical and physical, what you call between physical life and that which you are calling death, does not exist. It's just the releasing of resistance, you see. And there are so many people that describe the death experience who have approached it and then been resuscitated and come back into their physical body, who describe with remorse that they came back into their body because they with such desire wanted to move toward the wonderful feeling of the releasing of all of that resistance. And every word that we utter, every process that we offer is about helping you all to release the resistance little by little so that you can begin feeling that. But you know, you're not going to feel the contrast as much when you have incrementally moved yourself up the emotional scale. In other words, there are many of you who feel as good as those who are now having the death experience. But comparatively speaking, you just don't know it because your relationship with life has gotten so very, very good, you see.
Yes. I know from doing certain practices or just spontaneously having an experience that to me I would say is spiritual, just in the sense of really feeling deeply the connection with source energy and that I'm part of source energy. And so for me, that's why partly I can relate to the perspective of Abraham, because I've felt for so long we have in us that capacity for that direct experience, and it is all about the direct experience rather than an intermediary or someone telling.
Well, we like the tone of your question, because when someone says, I want to understand and maybe even viscerally feel what the death experience is like, that's someone who's saying to us, I want to open my vortex and feel the fullness of who I am living through me here and now. Because, you see, we don't have to teach you about the death experience. You're all going to have it. We don't have to teach you about releasing resistance. Then you won't be able to help it. We want to teach you about releasing experience, the negative experience and the negative vibration now. We want to teach you to release resistance now and we want you to all feel detachment from things that trouble you. We want you to all feel detachment from pain and sorrow and regret and guilt. We want you to have the death, there it is. Oh, let's say it, first time ever. But it could not be a more powerful statement. What death literally is the death of resistance. That's what it is. And you can have it before they bury your body, or burn it, or throw it in the water, whatever you plan to have done. Jerry wants to be thrown off in the bushes. As they travel the nation, they look for just the right bushes everywhere they go. It's troubling to Esther. As you realize that the death experience is literally the releasing of resistance. That's the best description or definition of death that we could ever give. The death of resistance, the ceasing of resistance is what death is. And so now we have to redefine death as death is finally living.
Wow. Awesome.